Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Justin with Prinsu Design Studio and CBI Off-Road. Today we're going to show you how to put a roof rack on your Ranger 2-seat. Stay tuned. All right, so first step, we're gonna get everything kind of laid out, make sure you got all your material. Just a quick note, so this is a Ranger 2-seat North Star that we're working on, but install is gonna be the same. It's the same roof rack model for all the Ranger 2 seats, whether you have a plastic roof or not, or obviously the North Star. We're gonna be doing a couple extra steps as far as headliner removal and things like that because it's a North Star. So if you don't have the North Star model, you don't have to worry about any of that. Anyway, so we got 4 crossbars, we got our 2 side rails, 4 mounting brackets, and a wind deflector, and of course our bag of hardware. In here, we're gonna have a small bag with the wind deflector hardware. We'll set that aside there. This is gonna be our main mounting hardware to get the roof rack on the vehicle. Here's some tie down rings. Of course, we're gonna use our Loctite, and this bag here is for our crossbars. So we'll get everything prepped, we'll get Loctite and washers on our bolts, and just get general assembly going on the ground. What we're gonna do is assemble the rack on the ground, then we'll put it on the vehicle, make all our marks, then take it down and start drilling. So for right now, step 1, let's get it all assembled and good to go. All right, so on our front brackets, we need to make sure that we put this little cutout facing the front of the vehicle. And this is just gonna slide onto this crossbar and mount in place just like that. So we're gonna take our 1/4-inch carriage bolts that came in our kit. We're gonna slide them in this channel. We need 2 in the front, 2 in the back. And we'll get it, all the nuts and washers kind of hand tight. We'll probably tighten 1 down just so the bracket doesn't slide around too much while we take it to the vehicle, but we don't want to tighten all these up until we get it in place on the vehicle. All right, so I got our bracket kind of where we're gonna place it. So I'm just gonna snug 1 bolt up. This is a 7/16 ratchet wrench. Like I said, I'm not gonna tighten up all of them yet until we get it on the vehicle and adjust it properly so we can mark our hole where we're gonna drill it. So that's snug. Now we're gonna take our side rail and we're gonna install our crossbars on the smaller holes, smaller slots right here. So we're gonna take our crossbar bolts here. The tool we're gonna use is a T30 Torx. I have an impact here. It's turned down to its lowest setting. You definitely want to be careful not to over tighten these, so don't go crazy with an impact or just play it safe and use hand tools. But that's a T30, and we're going to install in the 2 holes in the crossbar in the smaller slots on the side rail. All right, so now we're gonna, before we install this back crossbar, we're gonna get our brackets ready to go for the rear. So we're gonna take our same 1/4-inch carriage bolts, we're gonna slide them in the back side of the channel. We need 2 per side. Once these are in, then we can attach the crossbar to the side rail, and same on the other side. Then get our rear bracket loosely installed. Again, we don't wanna tighten that yet because we'll have to slide it around to get the correct positioning before we tighten it down. So we'll get these guys in and lock in the crossbar. All right, so we got all of our hardware prepped and everything to install our wind deflector. So we got our Loctite on these smaller bolts. They're a Phillips head screw, so we'll be using a Phillips head screwdriver to tighten those up. I also got our T-nuts into the slots here. Just make sure you put the threaded part facing upward. And I like to kind of line the wind deflector up with the crossbar, so you make sure you get your T-nuts kind of roughly in line with the holes. And we'll just set this up here, and we'll just start loosely installing the bolts until we get everything aligned. Then we'll tighten it all down and put it in our roof rack. All right, so now we're in the vehicle. We're gonna take down this headliner now just to get better access to the roof. So there's a lot of these little Christmas tree clips. We're just gonna use a little pry tool to get those down. And then we have a couple bolts holding this light, and then a couple up here, and they're a T25 Torx head. So we'll get the bolts out and then start working our way around and get these Christmas tree clips. Okay, so we got our headliner down. There's just some electrical plugs that we're gonna undo so we can take our roof off. But what we're gonna do before we take the roof off, we'll go ahead and unplug these first, but we're gonna take a small tool and we're gonna insert it through our mounting holes in the steel cage here onto the plastic roof. So we're gonna kind of scratch the inside of the plastic roof from here. So the front we could actually drill with a small pilot hole, but in the back we can't really fit a drill over here, so we're just gonna get a small screwdriver or something that we can, maybe even a pick, slide up through the hole and kind of mark the underside of this roof. Then we'll remove it and do the drilling on the side. But we'll start by the getting rid of these connectors, and then we'll show you our hole locations. All right, so on each side towards the front, we have this kind of open rectangular strip. We're gonna be drilling through the round hole on the inside of that on each side in the front. So I'm just using an 1/8 inch drill bit, and I'm just gonna center up in this hole and drill straight through the plastic. So we'll do that on both sides on the front, and then on the back, I'll show you up close what we're gonna be doing there. All right, so in the back, very back corner of each side, you'll find these two holes. One is kind of elongated sideways, and one is actually round. We're gonna be using the one that's actually round, so it'll be on the outside of each side of the back. So we're just gonna take this pick, we're gonna go up in there, and we're just gonna kind of score it, scratch that, that top plastic, and that'll be a good marker to drill our hole. Obviously it's really tight in here, we can't get a drill in there straight. So now we're gonna remove the roof and we'll do our drilling on the floor over there. Okay, so now that we got all of our holes marked, what we're gonna do now is remove the roof. So to do that, we have two T40 Torx bolts towards the front here. They're right on the outside of our mounting hole right here on each side. We'll remove those two, and then we'll go to the back of the vehicle where there's a few more, and I'll show you those up close. right, we got our same T40 Torx. We got 4 bolts back here. Go ahead and get these out and then we can get the roof off. All right, so our roof is off. We can clearly see our holes drilled on the front side. Now on the back side, I see our scratch marks that we made. There's these little fins that kind of stick up, these plastic ones. We're just gonna take a razor knife, cut those off so we can get in there to drill our hole and get our spacer set, all that good stuff. So good razor knife will work, maybe some side cutting pliers, but it's just thin plastic so it cuts pretty easy. All right, so we got all our pilot holes drilled. Now we're gonna drill them out to our final size. I'm using a 7/8 drill bit. You just need to make sure that the hole you drill is big enough for your spacer. 7/8 gives us a little bit of play in there. We're gonna ultimately silicone it all up. So if it's a little big, it's okay. But 7/8 is a good enough size to give you some play, but not be too oversized. So this surface is kind of curved, so we want to try to keep the drill straight when we go in, just because that's how our roof rack's going to mount. That's how that spacer is going to come up through there. But just stay straight on these and you'll be good. All right, so we just got our roof drilled. Now we're back on the UTV and we're gonna drill out the holes in the UTV itself. So it's gonna be the same holes that we've reached through and poked and marked on the front. Again, it's gonna be the round outside hole in the back and it's gonna be the inside hole in the front. So I'm drilling it out to 7/16 to start. Then I'm gonna come back with my 1/2" drill bit to get to the proper size for our riv nut to go in. So we'll go ahead and get this going. All right, so with everything drilled, the next step is we're gonna get our riv nuts compressed in the vehicle. So we're gonna take one of our bolts, we're gonna slide on the coupler, then we're gonna put a washer on, and then we're gonna thread the riv nut up to the washer, make sure it's snug against that. So the idea is that we're gonna put a wrench on the coupler, and then we're gonna turn the top of this bolt, keeping it flush inside the vehicle. So we'll put a wrench on the slotted area like that, and then with our ratchet we'll turn the top and it will compress this into kind of a mushroom shape on the inside of the surface here to give us a great surface to thread into. So once you get all your riv nuts compressed, it's time to throw the roof back on. All right, so we got everything drilled out. We got our roof back on. So we're just gonna get the rack in place, get the spacers in, fill that hole up with silicone. We'll get all the bolts hand tight, then we'll come back and tighten everything down. All right, so here's our silicone. This is black RTV automotive silicone. We get it in a caulking gun just because we go through a lot of it, but you can find it any auto parts store. This is really great stuff. It expands and contracts, you know, with the weather, different climates, things like that. And with a good amount of this silicone, we've never had a leak with this stuff. So this is a great way to seal the roof up. We're gonna put a big kind of puddle down in there, smash the spacer down, and since the roof kind of comes up so much, we'll go around the top of the spacer also, as well as inside the hole, because you want to seal that bolt going into there. So great stuff. Don't be afraid to use a decent amount of this. Keeps the weather out. Always good stuff. So we'll get at this. All right, once you get your rat tightened down, don't forget to come back and put in your plastic roof bolts. We have the 4 back here and the 2 in the cab, so we'll get those put in right now. All right, so our final step is we got to get everything plugged back in, all our electrical reconnected, and we'll get our headliner back installed, and then that'll pretty much be it. All right, so don't forget, as we're putting this back together, that your larger screws are gonna go in the front 2 holes. The rest are gonna be Christmas tree clips, and then you have your smaller screws holding the light in. So don't forget that as you put this back together. All right, guys, that sums up our roof rack install on the Ranger 2-seat UTV. We also want to make a quick note. This wind deflector, it's cut a little bit down. Our customer is going to be installing a 50-inch light bar, so this comes with that option to get that cut out. If you don't want the light bar, the wind deflector is going to go a little bit higher, sit nice and flush so you won't see that crossbar. So just want to make that quick note, but thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, drop us a comment below. Thank you.